Glad to have you back. It's the Business Daily right here on Trust Television. And of course, we are talking inflation. The numbers was released on Friday by the National Bureau of Statistics, which put Nigeria current inflation number at 33.88%. Of course, if you want to look at the trajectory from January till now, we started the year with 29.90%. In February, it moved to 31.70%. In the month of March, 33.20%. April, 33.69%. In May, it moved to 34%. June, 34.2%. In July, it moved to 33.4% there. Of course, in August, it is a little, 32.15%. Of course, we have that graphics there. If we can have them on the screen so that we can interact with it properly. In September, it also is downward, 32.7%. And of course, in October, the inflation numbers move upward, 33.88% there. Of course, I have my guest in the studio. Ayo Oyalowo is a development economist, and of course, Vincent Yusuf is a Daily Trust Agric correspondent. Mr. Ayo, let me come to you. Inflation numbers has been on the upward trajectory since the beginning of the year, apart from the ease that we saw in the month of August and September. Of course, that the prediction of analysts is indeed becoming a reality. What we saw in August and September was just because it was during the harvest season.
Yeah, I remember saying it in some other TV that during the harvest we're going to have some slowdown because food inflation formed the highest bulk of our inflation figure. Unfortunately, it was during this period that food regulation was now finally implemented. And the moment that the regulation was implemented, the price was passed on to the costing. I mean, I remember when he was talking earlier on, you must remember that when you move food product from the farm to the city center and then to the final consumption center, all these costs must be not necessarily imputed into the final cost, because transportation forms a huge part of the costing in the long run. So I think we must deal with that sector, transportation. And I remember the former government was trying to look at a situation where we can move in goods, especially food product, from maybe the northern side to the south using the railway. But I don't know where that program is standing right now. So these are the things that I think this new government needs to do. We need to dust it. Because I saw a video recently of how police and some other roadblocks were causing a lot of problems to truckers moving food from the north to the south, how they were being harassed, how they were being asked to pay some, all these levies that we don't know how legal or illegal they are. But these are necessarily some of the issues that we have to contend with. So I think the problem that this government is suffering is lack of proper organization, and I'll explain that. You see, there is an alternative to petrol that have been brought to, which is CNG. However, there has been staccato organization in it that nobody understands what is going on. If that was properly managed the way it should be managed in terms of organization and planning, we will have most of our trucks and public transportation on CNG, which means the cost of this fuel thing will not be that burdensome on the final consumption, because when the farmer is moving his good, he's moving it based on what he has produced. But the person transporting will naturally infuse that cost. So these are the challenges I have with this government. You have a challenge on ground, but you have a good solution. But the implementation and the planning has been so chaotic and so haphazard that it is no longer, now you don't even know which public or commercial vehicles are on CNG. So these are the challenges. I think what they should have done was to plan this properly, have a system in place that is working, that when vehicles that are supposed to be commercial, because I mean individual users of cars, you may decide to put it or you may decide not to CNG your car, whichever. But for commercial vehicles, for trucks, if they are going to be on CNG, we need to understand how it works. We need to know who has been put on it so that they don't pass. Because I was hearing a story recently that a lot of commercial vehicles have been moved to CNG, but they are not indicating. They are still charging people as if they are using petrol. So these are the challenges, because clearly, whether you want to believe it or not, if fuel move from 160 to 500 or 600, then from 600 to 1,000 or thereabout right now, it will naturally affect the cost of food and other goods and services. So these are the issues. But with the CNG, which is supposed to be a proper solution, the organization and the planning has been chaotic, has been staccato, and has been so opaque that nobody knows what is going on. So these are the issues that the government needs to face, so that Nigerians, because you must give it to them, they've done very well in terms of numbers. I mean, I was listening to the discussion on the stock market. The government has done well in terms of numbers. They've done well in terms of revenue generation and so on. But you have not been able to do well to trickle this down to the masses. And the things that affect the masses are not that much. Cost of power, cost of power, that's energy, and food. And food will be affected by transportation. So if they cannot sort these two issues, it doesn't matter how well they have done, it doesn't matter the numbers we are seeing, people will continue to be suffering and cry of hunger, because those are the things that affect the people naturally.
Indeed, talking about food affects a lot of people naturally. Transportation, you also mentioned there, they are interwoven, they are linked together, because the farmers need to move their produce from their locality to the market. Of course, that is having a ripple effect on cost of food in the country. Mr. Vincent, you are very strong in that area. Tell us, there is a prediction that there's going to be food scarcity by next year.
Okay, I don't want to be like a prophet of doom, okay, but the reality, the ground.
Prophet of reality.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, you was just highlighting issues that have to do with food inflation. And you see, multiple taxation is also an issue. If you're moving food from the north to the south, between Benue and, say, Port Harcourt, for instance, you have close to 500 checkpoints.
Jesus.
Yes, you do. Police check, and yes, and you are going to have at every checkpoint you have to pay. Some of these checkpoints are mounted by community people, so virtually everybody is collecting tax on the road. Go and speak to those who are moving goods from the north to the south, and they will tell you the sad story. Now, if you look at the entire food system, it's not transportation, multiple taxation, that is just one unit. What happened to the cost of inputs? Can you reduce the cost of food at that level? It's still a problem, because for many years we're still struggling with issue of fertilizers and seed. How long are we going to be struggling with this? Okay, then that is one. Two, the cost of labor is something that is killing farmers right now. I mean, when you speak to farmers and they will tell you, look, we can't even have access to tractor. When you are asking a tractor to come work in your farm, in 1 hectare farm, what they are charging you is ridiculous. Then you now want to employ manual labor, and then they are also charging you. You see, at the end of the day, even at the farm gates, the prices of this food is going to be high. But let's also look at one issue. What has happened to productivities in the last 3 years? Our productivity as far as food crops is concerned is declining. Yes, it's going down because, of course, there are issues of climate change, but again, a lot of, a lot of people who are in major grain producing areas have been ransacked out of their villages. They are all moving to the city. Wow. So you're now going to see a situation where our supply of grains will now reduce. Look at what is happening. We did a report last week of what is happening in the farms right now. People are stealing. Farmers are forming vigilante to go and sleep in the farm because people are now moving. On Saturday, I was with a friend and he told me, look, we went to his farm and saw that his potatoes were completely gone. So you see what is really happening. Now, if it is happening at the time of harvest, what will happen in the lean season? So that is a problem. And because we're not also able to look at infrastructure in terms of irrigation, we have potential for 3 million hectares. We're not doing anything.
Indeed.
We have almost over 300 irrigation sites. We're not really doing anything with it. So our entire food production is one season based, wet season. And our population is growing from 200 million to 230, and then your food is so like, I mean, how do you meet the demand we see more activities in the value chain activities, okay? But the supply to fit that space is extremely challenging. It's dwindling, it's reducing. So until we recalibrate our entire architecture to really step up our production, I do not see food prices coming down anytime soon.
Mr. Ayo, follow up to what Mr. Vincent said. There was the president declared emergency on food security last year. That doesn't seem to have any impact.
That's the part of the problem, I say. The president says something, you don't see any action. Who is implementing? The same way during one of his speeches, he gave a 1 million kit for CNG. Have you seen anyone? So these are the problems. The president may have good intention. He may make this pronouncement. Probably they even release these things or monies for it, but nobody knows where it is. So these are the problems. In fact, apart from the food emergency declared, there was a time, just recently they declared that for 180 days or thereabout, they will allow him for food importation without taxation, just to reduce the burden. But do you know anything going on about that? So these are the issues. There's a big jump between the pronouncement and the implementation. So the president or whoever are the people who need to help him implement are not doing their jobs. And here I sit here, I don't want to put everything on the president, but let me go like this. For the food stuff, the people running the Ministry of Agric, I don't think they know what they are doing. Unfortunately, we have 2 ministers there, and I honestly don't think they understand their job. This is a huge challenge. You see, the Buhari government had a template that was working. Yes, a huge flaw were in that template. I could point, as I sit here, I could sit down and point a lot of flaws. But what I expected was for these ones who came in to look at that template, dust it up. These are the flaws, nail it off, fix those areas, and then continue in that manner. But right now, they didn't continue with that template. They don't even have their own template. So they're just there in the office doing nothing. Now, this is one aspect of the issue. The second aspect, which he mentioned but without saying it, is when you talk about input and labor. Input, labor, all these things are in the purview of states. Apart from the Niger State governors who, this current governor who has really been very, very effective in terms of I think he's a serious governor. I'm yet to see other governors imbibing that. I remember the Osun governor did one razzmatazz, he said he was doing, and today nobody knows where those tractors are. So these are the problems. I also will point to you remember the Kebbi rice thing. In fact, it was so good during that time that they had what they call the lake rice, that Lagos State had to come together with Kebbi State to run a project where Kebbi produces the rice, Lagos have a huge mill and the market. Now, these are the issues. As soon as those governors left the office, the ones that came in after them refused to follow those templates. So we have to tell the state what are they doing. Because if a state governor has invested so much in agriculture and a new governor comes in, why don't you continue in that trajectory? I remember recently, just the last Eboye governor, they had a huge plan for rice too, and it was working. We could buy those rice. Now I don't know what the new one is doing. So these are issues. I also was in Kano. There was a time I was in Kano. I was in Jigawa. I saw he was talking. Just that's why I say he mentioned without even going into the details. I saw a huge irrigation plan that have been put in place. A lot of machineries have been bought. A lot of money were spent on irrigation, so that apart from the wet season farming, we can have the dry season farming. But as soon as the new governors come in, they just jettison these things. Because whether you like him or not, Genduje did a lot in terms of irrigation. I saw it with my eyes. I wasn't told. I was in Kano. I saw it in Jigawa too. But as soon as the new guys come in, they just start something else. So you see, between the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and the various states, there is a huge problem. They need to sit down and look, what do you really want? Do you just want as governors to collect? Because right now they have a lot of money coming in because of the fuel subsidy that has been removed, and maybe because of the
strong FAC allocation.
The FAC allocation, they are getting a lot. So right now the governors are busy just doing bureau de change businesses. Only a few of them are governors. The rest of them have become bureau de change partners. They are just changing money to dollars and creating a lot of distortion in that market. I don't even want to go into that area yet. So we need to sit down and tell ourselves the truth. Between the Ministry of Agriculture and our various state government, there is a huge problem. And if they don't think that this is an issue, one day when Nigerians will rise up, it will not be all this organized riot that you just catch some people, and it will not be good though, because hunger is the biggest problem, and hunger is the worst enemy anybody can have. And when people are united by hunger, they will not remember your party, they will not remember whether it's the minister or it's the state. They will just rise up. So Nigerian leaders need to look at this. The states have all the machineries to ensure that agriculture is put on the front burner. But apart from a few governors, the rest are just busy becoming BDC champions. We need to stop this nonsense because Nigerians are hungry, and hunger is something that when it pushes people to the wall, you don't need anybody to tell you to go to the street and start killing people or causing trouble. So we need to sit down. I don't want this to happen. I'm sure you don't want it either. But we want our leaders to listen. Agriculture is very simple to do if you help the people to do it. But if you are pretending that it's none of your business, it's the federal government issue, then one day the state governments will understand. I mean, you saw what happened in the last one. That one, even though a few people were using it to, one day another will happen. And this one will no longer be by organized people. It will be by the hungry people by themselves. So state governors, if you are listening to me, it is your turn, your chance. Because I always say this, the federal government does not own any inch of land. They don't. All land belongs to the state governors. The state governors must wake up and help the farmers to achieve their purpose. We have insecurity challenges, no doubt about that. But beyond the insecurity challenges, we have the problem of input, we have the problem of labor, we have the problem of capital. These are areas that the governors need. If they need to work together with the federal government, with the CBN, then they should do that. But you cannot leave agriculture and pretend that all our problems will just disappear without us doing something about it. We must do something about it. There is a template that the Buhari people were using. There are flaws in that template, but go look for it, dust it, look at the errors, correct the errors, and make sure that that template is put into place. Buhari succeeded, and I said it every time. During the time of COVID, when we locked the wall down, if there was no Buhari plan, today we will all be dead of hunger. Because we are self-sufficient in food because of that plan, as flawed as it was. So this government needs to go and look for that and ensure that we become self-sufficient in food production, because the only country that is safe is the country that is self-sufficient in food production.
Indeed. Mr. Vincent, you want to
you see, he has touched on many issues. Okay, if you look at the budget of the federal government for agriculture,
yes, still below the AGOA.
Yes, you will certainly understand that this government is not really serious about agriculture. I mean, the budget of a whole Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is less than 150 billion. That is about 0.4% of the total budget. And yet you have over 230 million to feed. Where are you going with that? I also agree with him that state government really need, you see, a lot have been, dropped at the doorstep of the federal government. Agree, they have to take the lead. But state government need to also key into it, because a lot of the check the budgets of all the state governments.
I don't think some of them have Ministry of Agriculture. If they have, they are not paying.
Some do, but they if you look at the budget, some 0.2%, some 0.3%. So we really need to look at that. And then I have always said that the problem with us is we are too quick at setting aside programs or policies that successful administration have. For instance, when Additional started the GES, they came in, set that aside. Buhari came in with Anko Borrower program. They came and set it aside. Of course, it has its flaw, agree. But if you continue to do that, you're going to have a problem. Even investors are not going to trust you. Because if you come up with a program and you say, look, come and invest, they will tell you, we are not sure. How sure are we that once you leave the office, the program will not be set aside? That is a problem. Instead of strengthening whatever lapses, the loopholes in those programs, we continue to set that aside. Now, we have almost 50 million smallholder farmers in this country. The ministry has less than a 150 billion budget. and you need to support these 50 million. What kind of support are you going to give them? Now look at our problem. We are busy talking about big machineries like John Deere tractors and Mahindra and all of that. These smallholder farmers, can they afford this tractor? Even if you give it to them, would they be able to maintain this tractor? Meanwhile, as a government, you have a Center for Agric Mechanization there in Ilorin. Why don't you fund that center and say, look, produce this small scale equipment. This farmer can maintain it. If you fund them, if all the state governors, for instance, come into this and then fund that center, they will be able to, help their state mechanize the agricultural system. But if you don't do that and you're looking for, China started that way. Today, they can even produce the big machinery and export them. But check what their farmers are using in their individual farms. They are using small machines, some of the women-friendly machines that can be operated by women in the farm. Until we think that way, it will be very difficult for us to make any headway in our agricultural system. I mean, when you go to countries like Kenya, you will see how they are doing. I mean, how they are progressing in terms of the agricultural system. Here, every year, each government comes in and is talking about fertilizer, how to support farmers with fertilizer. When are we going to move from that? So we must we must sit down, the federal government must also, in my opinion, we need to invest nothing less than 1 to 2 trillion in that sector right now. You know what US did? US picked 4 crops and focus largely on them because they know if anything happens to these 4 crops, it has a ripple effect down on the value chain activity, even the industry. Rice, wheat, maize, soybeans. And they even use these in their diplomatic relations. If something happened and you see them say we want to move in food to those, because they are investing massively in this. The same thing in Nigeria. If anything happens to maize, you see the poultry sector will collapse. You see what has happened in the last 2 years. Because they couldn't buy feed. And what has been the problem? The cost of maize is very high. And then rice. If you don't even have rice, you know what that means today. These 2 crops are now national crops.
We should make rice and I think maybe
what is our
cassava to that.
So what is our performance even in terms of wheat today? What are we producing? We are consuming 4 million metric tons of wheat, and we are producing even less than 400,000 metric tons.
Indeed, Mr. Oyalowo, he made mention about smallholder farmers, which are very key in us to eradicate the food insecurity that we are actually having right now. But one of the key challenges facing this set of people is the fact that they don't have access to credit. Well, most times you heard about government grants, government initiatives, but at the end of the day, the right people don't get the funds.
No, thanks for this question. I used to be with NASA, and that was the thing they had. But what happened to the past management was that rather than fixing, because they were able to have what you call that geolocation, you had they were able to geolocate that, okay, people within this area, you do this. Then they had a lot of plans for bringing farmers in terms of making sure that the value chain from the beginning of sowing the seed to aggregating the farmers and all those things were working. They were all put in place there, but what happened to that management? They are still in court with the federal government as I speak with you. They stole everything that was supposed to be stolen, everything inside. So this is the challenge. When you put people there, I mean, everybody knows that the smallholder farmers don't have money, but you need to help them. So what I expect the government to do right now is, look, this NASA was a good idea, and it should still be encouraged. But right now they are playing. I mean, you remember about a month ago, the new management was announced. But as I speak to you today, they have not been able to resume because a lot of politics are going on there. So these are the issues. People are more interested in who gets what than how the thing actually works for people. Absolutely. Because you need an agency to look out for these smallholder farmers, because they are the critical mass that you need. If you have smallholder, even if you say 50 million, even if you can help 20 million among them, you have done a lot. And when you are able to manage these smallholder farmers, what you do is you aggregate them. You say, okay, this side of the equator, you can all produce rice. We'll have off-takers for you. You cannot have less than this, you will not lose. So no matter what happens, you have off-takers for it. The off-taker have where to take them. That way you can aggregate them, you can plan. NASA has a very fantastic program for it. But it was mismanaged, heavily mismanaged by the past management of that organization. And as I speak with you, they're in court. I'm not sure they're even able to recover much from them. So these are the challenges that we have. But we cannot, because of these challenges, dismiss everything. You need to, like I said, look for this. These are the challenge. These are the problem. Okay, how do we strengthen corporate governance in these agencies? Because you will need the smallholder farmers, and you will need an agency to help them. So what NASA used to do then, it was that they were like an insurance firm for them. So you tell them, go to the bank. If a bank, we have a bank that, for instance, will give you at a less than the normal amount of in terms of
interest rate.
They'll give you better interest rate than what you will get in the commercial if you're taking commercial borrowing. And what NASA does is they guarantee up to at least 70% of your loan. So it was working until the past management led by that MD your session carried the news extensively there.
Absolutely.
Who stole so much and everything that. So it was working. And we need to go back to that because these smallholder farmers need this assistance by the federal government and by such an agency. And I think state government should look at it also and do it in a micro level so that smallholder farmers aggregated within an area. You say, okay, with this area, all of you grow cassava. We have Mr. X is the off-taker. He takes from you. We will not buy less than this amount from you for per ton. So that way the farmer is guaranteed that he's not losing money. He knows that he's going to make money. And then the banks are also happy to give because they know that their monies are guaranteed. So it is doable. It is workable. Unfortunately, I think we are not seeing the danger of neglecting agriculture. And like you said, we need to pick our crop. They are very important crop in Nigeria today. Everybody drink or eat or whatever with gari. Everybody like rice in Nigeria and maize. So you look at maybe 3, 4, 5 crops and say, look, these are the ones we are focusing on, and we're going to grant loans for this. We're going to have off-takers for this. In fact, we're going to the entire food, the value chain, we're going to guarantee it from beginning to the end for this. So if we have this in place, we will have, if food inflation goes by 50%, I can assure you our inflation figure will just go down like that.
Indeed, there quite a whole lot of conversation, Mr. Vincent. Because of time, I hope being able to, ask you for any 30 seconds. I wanted to give you 30 seconds, but our time is already fast spent. There, of course, quite a whole lot of issues there. Of course, we're looking at inflation, but at the center of our inflation is the food inflation indeed there. So I assume the focus is on that, which is indeed very, very interesting. We look forward to see what government will do to avert the looming food insecurity. Ayo Oyalowo is a development economist. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Vincent Yusuf, Daily Trust Agri correspondent. Thank you also for your time.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. With that is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akogu.